Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dennis Quisenberry III. I am the chairman from EDAC from 2020 to 2021. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome back to our returning members, and a big welcome to our new members. It is great to have you guys on the committee with us. Looking forward to a great year of working together. Ms. Vaughn will be joining us a little bit later for an introduction also. She is our school board representative liaison. So we're going to jump right into our first order of business, and that is elections of our chair and vice chair. So on the screen, you'll see that we had me as chair last year and Dr. Blakely as the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
At this time on the agenda, I believe it's where you have the opportunity for your committee members to introduce themselves. So starting with you and then Dr. Blakely, and then the balance of the members after that.
All right. Thank you. So you've heard from me already. Dr. Blakely, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. Christopher Blakely. I am the vice chair of 2020 to 2021 EDAC committee. This will be my second term on the committee, and I have the pleasure of serving at Florida Gulf Coast University.
All right. So since we don't have each other face to face, we're going to go with our returning members. We're going to ask you guys to take turns jumping in. So we have a list. Mr. Burns, are you with us? Mr. Burns? All right, we're going to skip to Ms. Laura.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, glad to see everyone. I apologize that it's a little dark. I'm actually had back surgery 2 weeks ago, so I had to be laying flat. So that is why you guys cannot see much of me, but I am present and I'm glad to be back on board, and it's good to see everyone.
Thank you. Dr. Mahmood? Dr. Mahmood?
Mr. Chairman, he's logging in at the moment. Can we go to the next person?
All right, Ms. Marth?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Holly Marth. I am very proud to be serving my second term on the EDAC committee, and I hope we have yet another wonderfully productive season upon us. And welcome to all of our new members, and hi to all of our old ones.
Thank you, Ms. Marth. Dr. Peter?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Diangui. I serve as an assistant professor in the College of Education of Florida Gulf Coast University. I've been with the EDAC since 2014, and I've enjoyed every moment of it, and welcome everyone, particularly the new members. I'm glad to serve.
Thank you. And Mr. Paz?
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see returning members again, and I welcome all the new ones. I am Andres Paz, Chief Experience Officer at a full-service marketing agency called Adventure, and I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you, sir. We're going to move to our new EDAC members. Mr. Bell?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Bell. I'm retired law enforcement after 20 plus years, and my second career, if you will, after doing nothing for a while, I'm in the private equity country club management business now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bendeck?
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
My name is Juan Bendeck. Just a little bit of background about me. I am from Fort Myers originally, grew up in Fort Myers, attended Tanglewood Elementary, Fort Myers Middle School, and Fort Myers High School. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm a partner at a law firm, Hahn, Lozier and Parks. I've been there for about 14 years. Relocated to Southwest Florida after having lived in Miami for a while in 2004, and am very much looking to working with you all on this committee.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Burrell Cormier.
Hi, that's me. My name is Amy Burrell Cormier. We've been in Fort Myers since 2017. We graduated 2 kids out of South Fort Myers High School. Our third currently is at boarding school in Massachusetts. We've had kids in school from Oregon to Vermont to Florida. And yeah, look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Graham.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gloria Graham. I am new to the Fort Myers area. I've been here about 1.5 years. I have a freshman in high school at North Fort Myers High. I work currently for Lee Health, and I oversee their emergency management and public safety departments. And this is a second career for me. And I spent 25 years working in higher education at institutions throughout the country, the University of Southern Cal, Duke, University of Virginia, University of Tennessee, University of Chicago, and a couple others sprinkled in there. So my background is in public safety and emergency management, but I also have had a heavy emphasis in DEI work, and both with youth in our communities, as well as fostering and serving on committees and groups that were focused on DEI issues.
Thank you. Ms. House. Ms. Stephanie House, are you with us? All right, we're gonna move over to Lodovic Kimball.
Oh, I'm Lodovic Kimball. I'm a retired public school teacher and professor. I've taught at 3 colleges and 3 public school districts in Florida in 43 years. I'm past president of NAACP, work with the ACLU, and I consider myself a diversity trainer. Very much proud to be part of this group to help move our district forward.
Thank you, sir. Nakira Purdue.
Good evening, all. I'm so excited to be a part of this group. I am a substitute teacher at present, guest teacher. I am also the proud owner of Lee County Notary Professionals. I am a loan signing agent. I have 2 younger ones at Mirror Lakes right now. So I am so excited to be involved, to be a part of this great organization, and to see how much I can assist.
Thank you very much. I did not give myself much of an introduction. I'm currently the Dean of Students at Gateway High School. I do have 4 children, 2 that have graduated out of Lee County School System, and 1 elementary and 1 in high school. And I've been in Lee County now for 18 years. All right, so we're gonna.
Mr. Chair, we have Hytham that still is available for now, is showing.
Hytham, you with us now?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself. You can introduce yourself. You're on mute, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is Stephanie House. May I have the opportunity to introduce myself? Apparently,
Yes,
I went to mute, not by choice.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie House. I resided in Lee County
I hope
for
you have
the past
muted. I hope you
25
heard me.
years. And before retiring to Lee County, I was active duty military for 30 years. Very interested in the education of our young folks. I have 2 children that were in the Lee County school system. After retiring, I substitute taught in the Lee County school system. I stay involved with education through the NAACP. And I'm very interested in being involved with this committee.
All right, thank you, Ms. House. Haitham, are you back? All right, we're going to move forward with the election of the chair and vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't
Yes.
mind, I noticed some other names here, like Mr. Baxter, people who were there before. I don't know whether they're still members, they are logged in. And there is also need for introduction of the other people who are here before even the elections. Mr. Edie and the others, it's good to know them.
So we do have some guests with us tonight.
Is Mr. Baxter still a member and the other people there, they were members before?
Yeah, so we'll let our guests introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Mr. Edie. So I got your name first.
Mr. Chairman, that comes at the balance of the agenda for the staff. So if you will respect, we'll put that at the end of it. So if you want to go through the guests that you want to introduce, then we'll do the staff at the appropriate time.
All right. So we're going to move forward with the elections.
You did not answer my question, Mr. Chairman, about a few members who were there before, and I still them logged in, but I don't know they're still members.
I don't know how to answer that question either, Dr. Peter. We
Is
went
there
through the
anybody
list.
with an answer to it? Because they're here. Or are they guests?
Dr. Dianui, point of clarification, all the appointed members were introduced in the previous slides. Any of our other attendees tonight are guests and members of the public who have the opportunity to speak during public comments. However, everyone that was appointed by the board were introduced in the previous slides.
Thank you. That clarifies it. Thank you so much.
Ms. Martha, did I see your hand up?
Yes, sir. Are we ready for nomination, sir?
Yes, I think we've gotten to that portion.
Okay, I'm trying to lower my hand. I would like to nominate Christopher Blakely to serve as our chair for this year. I feel that all vice chairs have earned that position. Unless they were really, really bad and he was not.
All right.
I would like to second that.
That has been noted.
And it's been seconded.
All right, any other nominations for chair?
Motion to close the nomination
All right.
Yes.
on the said name.
Did you state your name? Is there a motion? We have a motion to close the nominations. Is there a second?
Second, Holly Marth.
Thank you. So motion is, all in favor?
Aye.
Is
Aye.
it possible for you to use your hand raising icon so that can be recorded?
I only see one hand.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if at all possible, may I make a suggestion? I don't believe that the hand raising will be captured with the recording. So you have two options, in my opinion, sir. You can ask for any objections to the motion, or you can conduct a roll call vote if you like, and the recording secretary will call the roll for you.
Good idea.
Okay. All right. Are there any objections to the motion of Dr. Blakely?
I don't have an objection, but can you clarify? We are voting for vice chair or chair?
We're voting for chair.
So what happened to you?
There was a nomination for Dr. Blakely to be chair. I do not oppose his nomination.
Dennis,
I wasn't sure. That's what I was asking.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Marth.
I thought it changed every year. I apologize. That was nothing against you. I think you've done a great job.
No, that's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's the will of the people.
I'd be happy if you stayed on as well.
No worries.
I think we still have a position, which is vice president, and we can, nominate who we want after that. So since this happened, we just have to move on.
All right. So there are no objections to Dr. Blakely. Ms. Torres Nunez, can you do the roll call vote for us, please?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, for a second point of parliamentary procedure, if you call for any objections, and since there are no objections, that motion would pass by acclamation or unanimous consent, since everyone on the committee is okay with the nomination as you presented it, sir, for your consideration.
All right.
So if no one objected to the motion that you presented, then since there were no objections, then that would pass by an election of acclamation, since there was only one candidate.
I would like to object.
Okay, so you have to take the vote, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we'll have that vote. Ms. Torres, if you do the roll call vote for us, please.
Okay, so this is for the election of the chair for the nomination of Dr. Christopher Blakely. Ms. Chris Fonte,
I would object. No offense, just I think it should stay the same.
Mr. Bell,
Aye.
object or accept?
No, I accept, sorry.
Accept. Mr. Paz,
I have a question. Are there term limits for chair and vice chair?
Thank you.
I don't know if there being any term limits. I have been the chair for the last 2 years. The chair before me was a chair for 2 years. I was also a vice chair. So it's whatever the vote of the committee is for the chair and vice chair.
Yes.
So if that is the case, normally every single one of the committees that I have been a member of, there's typically term limits, and 2 years seems very reasonable. Did you say you already have your 2 years in as your predecessor, or you were going on year 2?
I completed 2 years already.
You completed the 2 years?
Right, I've been with EDAC for 3 years. I was vice chair for 1 year and chair for 2 years. This is the beginning of my 4th year.
Got you. Oh, okay. No, at this point, you're probably being shy and you went out of it. So I will not object. I am okay, and I will vote in favor of the nomination.
thank you. Dr. Blakely,
I've not opposed. I accept the nomination first and foremost, and I guess I will vote for myself as well.
thank you, Dr. Blakely. Dr. Hatham,
Yes, I have no objection to the nomination.
thank you, Dr. Hatham. Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Chair Quisenberry, current Chair Quisenberry,
I accept. I have no objection.
Ms. Marth,
Y'all, I am so sorry. I thought there were term limits. I thought it was, I keep my nomination. Dennis, I think you've done a great job, but I keep my nomination as such.
thank you.
So awkward.
Ms. House, Ms. House,
I agree.
thank you. Ms. Purdue,
I agree.
thank you. Mr. Kimball,
I accept.
thank you. Dr. Deanui,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Bendeck,
I'm going to respectfully abstain just because this is my first meeting and I'm not familiar with, I'm sure either one would do a fantastic job, but seeing as though it's my first meeting, I feel most comfortable just abstaining from the vote.
thank you so much. It's recorded. And Ms. Burrell,
Agree.
thank you. So the final count is 12 approve and 1 objection and 1 abstain. So it is approved that for the nomination of Dr. Blakely, of the election of Dr. Blakely as the chair.
Thank you, Ms. Torres Nunez. Next up, we have the election of the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
after the previous motion's adoption, then the chair would pass over to Dr. Blakely to conduct the balance of the meeting.
All right, Dr. Blakely, I pass the torch off to you.
All right. First and foremost, thank you to the committee for your confidence in my leadership for the EDAC committee for the academic year 21-22. I also want to take a moment to thank former chair Dennis Quisenberry for his leadership over the last 2 years with an EDAC committee chair, as well as his commitment through the school district. So I just want to thank him for his work with the committee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
As stated in the agenda, our next agenda item is the election of the vice chair for the EDAC committee for the academic year 21-22. So at this time, we'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair. So you can either unmute yourself or you can place a nomination in the chat.
Mr. Chair, may I make a nomination, please?
Yes, sir, Dr. Dianui.
For balancing purposes, I nominate Ms. Holly Marth.
Thank you, sir. I'm honored.
There is a nomination for Ms. Holly currently on the floor. Is there a second?
I'd like to make a nomination for Mr. Dennis.
Okay. There's a
there's a need for a second.
Looking for a second, and then we'll go for the next nomination. So is there a second for Ms. Holly Marth?
Ms. Holly Marth, you can second yourself too.
Oh, that's fine then. I shall.
Okay.
That's
All
awkward
right.
as well.
So we have a second. We have a nomination by Dr. Dianui and a second by Ms. Marth. Ms. Marth, do you accept the nomination?
I very humbly and proudly accept. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? If you can go to your Zoom features, if you can lower your hand at this time, clicking on the reaction feature and lower your hand just so we clear up any confusion. But if you do need to speak, you can unmute yourself at this time. Is there? All right.
And do what now on the action feature?
We see Dr. Dianui, your hand is still raised as well as.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
If you go to
okay. Yes, sorry. Is that good now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, congratulations.
We have a nomination and we have accepted a nomination from Ms. Mark. Are there other nominations for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Dennis.
So there's been a nomination for Dennis Quisenberry for vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second that nomination.
Me too.
It's been seconded by Dennis Quisenberry. Mr. Quisenberry, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay, so we have two nominations currently. We have Ms. Marth as well as Mr. Quisenberry. Are there any other nominations? I'm scrolling through the gallery, seeing none. Is there a motion to close the nominations?
Aye.
So we have a motion by Dr. Dianui. We have a second.
By Lara.
Okay, and it's been seconded to close the nominations. At this time, we will move it to a vote. So we have Mr. Dennis Quisenberry as well as Ms. Holly Marth. So point of clarification, Mr. Edie, we allow the two individuals nominated to give them 2 minutes for speaking, or is that the price protocol?
I said the chair's discretion. There is no policy or protocol elected to the actual method of election and voting as far as procedure goes. So, Mr. Chairman, it's at your discretion and the committee's discretion how you want to format that.
And I would be in favor of Mr. Chairman that they introduce themselves and tell us what they bring to the table so that we get to know them.
So we have two individuals have been nominated. So the first that was nominated and accepted was Ms. Holly Marth. So we allow you no more than 3 minutes to introduce yourself and provide your rationale for your nomination and acceptance.
Certainly. Thank you very much. First of all, Dr. Peter, thank you. I am humbled by the nomination and appreciate it. For anyone who does not know me, I have 3 grown adult children who have all graduated through the Lee County school system, as I did back in the early 1980s. I also substitute taught for many years in Collier County before I moved back to my hometown of Fort Myers. I am a very happily married realtor. I stay very involved in our local community. I serve on a couple of different boards. I volunteer with the Gulf Coast Humane Society. I volunteer with Lee Health's Veterans Organization under Kim Gade. I was the Athletic Booster Club president at Fort Myers High School and the parent liaison with their JROTC program for 8 years. I am very concerned as a brand new grandmother of a gorgeous grandson about the future of our Lee County school system. And I will do everything within my power to make sure that things become even more equal than they are now. I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I feel that if we all work together, that we should be able to very easily, I hope, come to the agreement that we are indeed all one people. So I do again appreciate the vote, and I hope that I have gained your confidence and that you will vote for me, even though I really adore Dennis and I hate running against you, sir. I just think that a change of the guard sometimes is a wonderful thing to have, and diversity is a great tool for this and every committee out there. So good luck, sir.
All right, I guess.
Thank you, Ms. Marth. At this time, we'll extend the same to Mr. Quisenberry, a maximum of 3 minutes to provide an introduction and rationale for his nomination. So, Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the nomination. It has been a joy to work with EDAC for the last 3 years, putting in the time and the effort with the committee. I think we've made a lot of progress as a committee over time. Working together and coming up with some interesting and creative ideas. I think that is the benefit to what we do as a committee and the things that we're able to come up with, just because we come from various backgrounds that gives us that knowledge outside just the classrooms and the school perspective, getting the community perspective. And so I've enjoyed taking all those ideas and blending them into one to help EDAC move forward. I am willing to serve in any capacity that is available to me through EDAC. Again, I've enjoyed the work I've done so far. I will look forward to supporting Dr. Blakely. I would also support Ms. Marth if she was to win the nomination. Just being a part of this committee is a big enough service and accomplishment for me. So vote for whoever you think is best. I think we have 2 good options on the table. Thank you.
All right, thank you for Mr. Quisenberry as well as Ms. Marth for providing your rationale. We appreciate that. Give the committee here a moment to take in what was shared, and we will take a vote here. And just point of clarification, Mr. Edie, if would be a preference of the recording purposes to do a roll call vote or to identify through the chat feature. For the vote.
No, sir. Voting during the chat or using the chat as an option is not an option for us, Mr. Chairman. So okay. If the committee would be amenable, it'd probably be easier to vote in the same manner of which we voted for the chair, to have that conducted via roll call vote.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edie. Based on the information, we will begin with a roll call vote. Ms. Torres-Nias, could you call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Blakely. Please indicate whether you're voting for Ms. Marth or Mr. Quisenberry. Ms. Crisfonte.
Hi, Crystal. Mr. Quisenberry, please.
Thank you. Mr. Bell.
I just want a brief comment and piggyback on Mr. Bendick, because it's a very difficult position for those 7 of us or so that are brand new. But I'm gonna go with Ms. Marth today.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Paz.
My vote is for Mr. Quisenberry, and I just feel as though we have some unfinished business, And one of the things that we need to formalize and structure a little bit better is this election. As the previous person just stated, we're asking new members with 0 meetings in to vote on chair and vice chair. This is backwards. This should be done towards the end of our term and not at the beginning. And I feel as though there needs to be just a little bit more conversation. I didn't know whether Mr. Quisenberry wanted to rescind or step down from being chair or not. I didn't even know if Dr. Blakely wanted to be chair. So coming from the summer break and doing this vote at the beginning, I'm not against it. So once again, my vote is for Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you, Mr. Paz. Dr. Blakely.
I will submit my vote for Ms. Marth.
Thank you, Dr. Blakely. Dr. Hatham.
I already sent you my nomination. Have you received it by chat?
We have to record it verbally, Dr. Hatham.
Okay, Dennis.
Thank you, Dr. Hatham. Ms. Graham.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Mr. Quisenberry.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Ms. Marth.
Myself.
Thank you.
I do want to be on the record as saying I agree with our new members. This has been a very awkward start to this meeting. I'm sitting here just, it's very awkward. That's all. It's incredibly awkward.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Ms. House.
Again, because I'm a new member also, I'm going to vote for Mr. Quisenberry because I'm just going to vote for what's already been established. Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you, Ms. House. Ms. Purdue.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Mr. Kimball.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Dr. Dayanui.
Ms. Math.
Thank you. Mr. Bendeck.
I'm going to abstain again. I'm sure both would do an outstanding job. I just don't feel I have enough information to make an informed vote.
Duly recorded, Mr. Bendeck. Thank you. And Ms. Burrell.
I am going to abstain as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The final vote is 8 for Mr. Quisenberry and 4 for Ms. Marth.
Thank you to the committee and congratulations to Mr. Quisenberry for his election as vice chair. And thank you, Ms. Marth, for your commitment to the committee as well. I know that you will continue to provide input and direction for us as well from your role. So we thank you. And also too, we have noted your concerns related to the election process. So that's something we will look to discuss in future meetings if you so choose. But at this time, we will move forward with the approval of the agenda as currently outlined on this slide, as well as an email to you as, for today. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion.
This is Gloria Graham. I second.
So motion by Mr. Quisenberry and seconded by Ms. Graham, Gloria Graham. Are there any objections? Hearing none and seeing none, then the motion would carry by unanimous consent with no objections. Now we'll move forward to the approval of the minutes that were submitted to us via email. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I would assume that that can only be done by members who are there, I suppose, but I so move it.
I move to second it, Lara Crispont.
So there was a motion by Peter Dianui, and second by Laura Christoph. Any objections? Excuse me, sorry. Any objections?
Dr. Blakely, this is Ryan Bell. Just a note, and I don't know if it really means anything. There is a typo in those minutes. I don't know if we're that particular or not.
Yeah,
if you want to correct it.
If you want to make an amendment to that, you can state that to make sure we can have that updated for the record. So if you want to identify a particular typo, that'd be helpful.
Yes, it was in the section titled Update from Staff Liaison. Second line says where the can reapply. I believe it should say where they can reapply.
Thank you. That was duly noted. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor with an amendment to update the language to update from staff liaison. Any other discussion or objections? All right, so hearing no objections, the motion will carry with the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Bell, to the minutes in this section of update from staff liaison. Now we'll open the floor for public comment. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes speaking time unless the number of speakers is greater than 20. If greater than 20, each speaker will be allowed up to 2 minutes of speaking time. We ask that anyone stating public comment state their name for the record before speaking. Ms. Torres Nunez, do we have individuals in the room who identify to speak for public comment? If you are here for public comment, if you raise your hand, that may help us out as well. Using the raise hand feature or using the chat feature.
Dr. Blakely, looking at the sign-in sheet for public comment, we don't have anyone that has signed up for public comment this evening.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which will be discussion of our parliamentary procedure and board policy review by our school board attorney and general counsel. I think it was Ms. Kathy. I think I've seen her in the rooms. Okay, yes.
Hello, how are you? Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Good evening.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right, so I have a couple of things. I know that we have a lot of new members and we have some old familiar faces too. So welcome to the new year, all of our old familiar faces, and welcome to all of the new appointees by the board. My name is Kathy Dupree Bruno, and I am the school board attorney and the general counsel for the district. And I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit in terms of expectations as you embark on this journey with EDAC, as well as share some information in terms of basic parliamentary procedure. And this is pretty basic. So if you already have some knowledge and you have specific questions you want to ask that's a little bit more advanced, please feel free to stop me and I'll answer those questions. But I think if you have the basics, especially for the new members, it will help you with conducting your meetings. So community engagement. Board policy 1.19 is the policy that talks about the community engagement and the board's desire to have feedback from the community. It helps with inclusiveness. It helps to focus their efforts on learning. It tries to build some consensus and helps to have a two-way communication between the board and the constituents. Board policy 1.20 is the community involvement policy. That is the policy that creates EDAC and also prescribes how you guys are operating your meetings. It controls pretty much all of the board advisory committees. Specifically, what the board is looking for is your input, your advice, your support in terms of different topics, your ideas, your suggestions, so that you can come back and bring it to the board and they can take a look at those recommendations and see if any of them are able to be implemented in the school district. It is really important that if you are going to have some type of personal benefit from a vote that you abstained, we want to make sure that there is no personal benefit that any member has from any of their work on any of our school board advisory committees. So membership to these committees is appointed by the board. Each board member has an opportunity to appoint a member to a committee. It's important for you to know that if you miss 3 meetings, that you can be removed from membership. And your appointment by the board is for 2 years.
Ms. Bruno?
Yes, Dr. Denui.
Could you please clarify the 3 meetings? If you go back to the last slide, please, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Missing 3 meetings, is that for the whole year or 3 continuous meetings? Could you please clarify that?
That would be for the whole year.
So if you miss the 3 meetings, the continuous year, so the following
within
year.
the year, 3 meetings within the year.
Within the year, okay.
And then your meeting dates, there's very specific dates and months that the board, not dates, but months that the board would like for you to meet. And that's pursuant to the policy. September, October, November, you skip December, January, February, March, and April. And I heard the discussion with regards to your first meeting and your election of your chair and your vice chair. That is also pursuant to policy. Given some of the feedback that you had tonight, I am actually working on changing some of our policies. 1.20 I already worked on, but if we need to adjust some of that, I'll get some feedback from the other committees and we'll see if we can adjust that to make it a little bit easier for you. So you guys at least get to know each other prior to your vote. So we'll see what we can do with that after we talk to all of the advisory committees. The other thing is with regards to reports. So each quarter, your chair will be meeting with the superintendent and all of the other chairs from the advisory committees. I will also be in attendance, and then reports are given in terms of what your committee is working on, some of your recommendations. From there, the superintendent will process all of that information, and then there will be an opportunity for a representative from your committee, usually it's your chair, to come in and actually give a report to the board and advise the board in terms of the recommendations. So those are your quarterly reports. One thing that you should know is all of these meetings are videotaped. They all have public comment. So it's really important that we always use professional decorum. I know that you guys know this. And one good thing that has happened recently as a result of the difficulties that we had last year with having a quorum, because you guys follow the same statute that the board does, and the board is required to have a physical quorum, is that the legislators starting July 1 initiate a portion in the statute that has now changed the requirement of the physical quorum and will allow board advisory committees to meet virtually. So that's a huge change. And I do want to commend this committee and your staff liaison and the staff liaisons of all of the board advisory committees that help lobby the legislature to allow this to happen, as well as our board itself. And of course, all of the other districts. You do have, I don't know if Ms. Vaughn is in the room now, but you do have your board liaison, who is Ms. Betsy Vaughn. She is a member at large, and she is the one that was appointed by the board. Are you there, Betsy?
I'm here.
Okay, there she is. Ms. Vaughn is the one that was appointed by the board to serve as its liaison for this committee. She will be working with the chair to help set the agenda. In addition, she will provide reports back to the board in between those quarterly meetings to just let the board know what's going on with EDAC. If there's any pressing issues, any concerns, she will bring that to the board for their discussion and their determination as to how they want to move forward. And of course, this is EDAC, the Equity and Diversity Advisory Committee. And your mission is to help the system, the district, the board, to adhere to its policies regarding equity and diversity. You're going to have some very interesting topics that come up that you may want to have some input in. You may want to have some suggestions or make recommendations to the board. So that's one of the main things that you're responsible for. In addition, and I know that Kathy Ebaugh is on with us tonight, one of the things too is having some of your members participate in a site selection committee. And that committee is to help our construction and our planning department to know whether or not this site would be reasonable when you're looking at it from an equity and diversity viewpoint. So that's one of your other main functions. Now, because you are a board advisory committee, and you are more than just a fact-finding committee, you are actually a committee that will make recommendations to the board. You fall under sunshine law and public records law, just like the board does. What the statute looks like in terms of board advisory committees, it kind of just sees you as a branch of the actual board. So any of the laws that are applicable to the board with regards to sunshine and public records is applicable to you. So what does that mean? Well, that means that all of your meetings are open. Even if you're doing it virtually or in person, it is open to the public. Any person off the street can come in and observe your meeting. It also means that the meeting has to be properly noticed so that the public knows when you're having your meetings and how you're having your meetings. The other requirement for sunshine is that minutes are taken. You take your minutes and they are promptly recorded. That does not mean that drafts of minutes are provided to the public, because minutes are not really effectuated until such time as you approve your minutes. So the process would be that your recording secretary takes the minutes. At the next meeting, you review the minutes, you approve the minutes, and then those minutes are posted. And then any documentation that is created by this advisory committee must be maintained because it is considered a public record. So I want you guys to make sure you're very clear. If you're taking notes for yourself, just to remember, what you guys talked about today, and it's just for yourself and you're not sharing it with anybody, that's one thing. But if you're taking notes and you're going to disseminate that information, you're perpetuating, you're communicating, or you're formalizing knowledge, that's something else. And that will be considered a public record, okay? So obviously your minutes are public records, your agenda is public records, and any formal note-taking that you do is public record. All your recommendations to the board that's written will be public record as well. Now, Robert's Rules of Order. So the board requires that all of the committees follow Robert's Rules of Order when it's conducting its business. It's the same thing that the board does. And the thing that's really important about Robert's Rules is that it just kind of helps you conduct your meeting in an orderly fashion, and it helps you move the business of the committee along. A couple of things: you've already voted for your chair and your vice chair because you need somebody to run the meeting. You also need an agenda, so you know what is the business that will be discussed at the meeting. So they're basic rules. So Robert's Rules is like a guide for parliamentary procedure. It's the most known guide for parliamentary procedures, and most of the governmental agencies and corporations, et cetera, that's what they use. And the whole purpose of it is to make sure that members have equal rights, privileges, and obligation. The majority will decide, but you protect the right of the minority. And basically everybody has a say. Everybody can discuss and prove their point. And then once the vote is decided, whatever the majority decides, that's what will be respected. It allows for the free discussion, and there's some formal processes and procedures in order to allow those free discussions and keep the business moving of the committee. So the first thing that you should know is that everything is by motion. Nothing really should go to the body without a motion. You guys are a small committee, so Robert's Rules does have some exceptions for small committees. So you may end up discussing something and there's no formal motion. It's not the end of the world, but really try your best to try to use motions to move your discussions forward. So how do you make a motion? At some point, you got to get the chair's attention, either raising your hand, and if you're doing virtual, you may say, "Excuse me, Mr. Chairman," or something like that to get that person's attention. And then you would say, I move that we, get some playground equipment. And it's really nice and helpful to your secretary to actually write your motion down, because your minutes have to reflect those motions. So if you can, prior to or immediately afterwards, provide your secretary the actual motion that was made. The secretary can't fill in the gaps for you with regards to your motion. Now, every motion, well, most motions require a second. And then so one person would say, just like you did earlier today, I move that we nominate Gloria Graham as our chair. And then somebody, Juan would say, I second that motion, or second. It's really important too, to actually state your entire motion. When the board does this, I don't like it. They say I move or so moved. That's not proper parliamentary procedure. You want to make sure that your secretary, and not only your secretary, but your entire body, all of your members, knows exactly what is the motion that's on the floor that we're voting on. So you need to say, I move that we nominate so-and-so for this particular position, not I move. And then you always need your second. Then the chair. It's very, very, very important for the chair to restate the motion. You want to make sure that all of your members know what in the world are we voting on, especially if there's been a lot of discussion. Sometimes people get confused and you lose the motion and all of the discussion. So chair, it is your responsibility to say it has been moved by Ms. House and it has been seconded by Mr. Ludwig that we are going to nominate so-and-so, so-and-so, okay? Once the motion is made and properly seconded, and the chair has repeated it, at this time, it is now time for discussion or debate. This is when everybody can discuss your position on buying that yellow playground equipment. Before you decide to, you want to get the floor, the attention of the chair, make sure that you obtain what we call obtain the floor, which means that it is your turn to talk. The maker of the motion is the first person who has an opportunity to speak. And then try to make sure that you keep your discussions regarding the motion on the merits of the motion. If you guys are talking about yellow playground equipment, then really we should not be talking about, the last course that so-and-so was writing that didn't work out very well, or whatever the topic may be. Try to make sure that your discussions are germane to the motion that is pending on the floor. Now, let's say that you, yes.
Could we please have everyone mute so we don't have the background noise?
Crystal, I think you may need to mute.
Yeah, if everyone can mute their mics when they're not speaking to make sure we have any background noise or feedback, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, let's say that you want to, anytime that you want to shut something down, as a general rule of thumb, it requires 2/3 votes. Anytime that you're trying to limit a particular individual's, hold on 1 second, please. Just 1 second. Anytime that you're trying to limit an individual's right, generally speaking, it requires a 2/3 vote. Most members can speak twice. The normal rule for Robert's Rule is that each member can speak for 10 minutes. However, you can, as your committee, decide which way you want to do that, okay? Hold on 1 second if you don't mind. That's what happens when you're a working mom sometimes, so my apologies. All right, so the other thing is with regards to Robert's Rules, when you're doing your debate, it's really important to take the personalities out of it. Listen respectfully, respect each other's time, stick to the subject, avoid bringing in those personalities. And the other thing is to always talk through your chair. A lot of times, the more formal you are in Robert's rules and the more that you try to keep to the rules, the better your meeting's going to be. So instead of talking directly to the person, if you direct it to the chair or through the chair, it does seem to take out some of those personalities when things get heated. All right, so let's say that you feel that, we've been talking about this for the last 15, 20 minutes, and it's time for us to move on. What do I say? Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to limit discussion to 2 minutes per speaker. Again, you're limiting rights at this point, so that will require a 2/3 vote, okay? Let's say that the discussion is still going on too long, and at this point, you're just ready to vote. It's time for us to move this forward. Well, Mr. Chairman, I move the previous question, or you can also say, I call for the vote. Again, it ends debate and requires a 2/3 vote. Now, once you have had your discussion, or maybe a motion for the previous question has been moved forward, and you want to go ahead and vote, the chair will go ahead and say, well, sometimes, not all the time, but the chair may say, are you ready for the question, or are you guys ready to move forward for the vote, or we're going to go ahead and take the vote. The very proper way to do it is, are you ready for the question? So once that happens, the question is then on the table, and then you actually take your vote. Then the chair will announce the results of the vote. And this is extremely, extremely important, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chairman. The motion carries, or the motion is defeated by whatever the number is. That's really important so that the body understands that this is what has happened with the vote, as well as the recording secretary can actually record what happened and how it happened. Now, sometimes you may want to amend a motion. For example, you were going to get the yellow playground equipment, but now you want to make it red. Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend the motion by adding the following words. We change yellow to red. And, or you can say, I move that we strike out yellow altogether and just say playground equipment. Just remember that when you do an amendment, sometimes it can be a little complicated, but it's really, if you remember that it's a couple of steps. First, you ask for the amendment, and then you vote on the amendment, okay? So that's really, really important. So a second is needed, vote on the first amendment, then on the main motion. Only 2 amendments per motion. Let's say you just want to substitute. I don't think we need playground equipment. I think we need books. Well, Mr. Chairman, I move to substitute the pending motion to move to purchase books in lieu of the playground equipment. Let's say that you kind of want the motion to die and you don't really want to have anything else to deal with it. You think that it's not going anywhere for the committee, and I think it's time for this to just kind of go away. Mr. Chairman, I move to postpone the question indefinitely. Or if you want to postpone it to a specific time or day, you can do that as well. We talked about indefinite. Let's say that during the discussion, and you guys have been having this robust discussion on whether or not you can buy the playground equipment or the books, and someone makes a really valid point and you thought about it, and you decide as the maker of the original motion that, you know, I think I'm going to withdraw my motion after hearing all of the discussion from my colleagues. I don't think it's the right way for us to go. I've changed my mind. Mr. Chairman, I ask permission to withdraw my motion. Let's say that you are going through your agenda, and then all of a sudden you realize that you guys are really not following the order of the agenda. You went from item A through E just by the discussions. Mr. Chairman, I call for the order of the day. I'd like for us to get back to our agenda. Or, you know, this is a really important topic that we're going to be voting on, but it seems to be item letter T on our agenda. I really need to go pick up my kid and I can't stay for this entire meeting. Mr. Chairman, is it possible to move item number T to B, please, so that I can be able to give my thoughts on it? Mr. Chairman, I would like a point of personal privilege. Well, what is your point? Well, I just can't hear. It's too noisy. Or can somebody please mute their microphone so I can hear better? Point of personal privilege. Or if you're in the room, it's too cold. Can we put the heat up a little bit? Now, let's say that you start getting a little bit of a ruckus and people are starting to talk over each other. This is a hot topic and you're really getting a little bit way out of order. Mr. Chairman, I rise to a point of order or point of order. What is your point of order? Well, you know, we are not following the proper procedure, or we're off topic, or whatever that point of order may be. What if you just need information? They're having a discussion, but you remember that last meeting they talked about how much those playgrounds were going to cost, but you can't remember. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, point of information. How much was those playgrounds again, the swings? I can't remember. Point of information, just to get that information. You know, now I'm in the middle of the meeting and I don't remember. I remember the school board attorney said something about 2/3 vote for some motions and then majority vote for some motions. I can't remember. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can we have a point of parliamentary inquiry so we can ask the parliamentarian or whoever's going to be guiding you to advise whether or not this requires a majority vote or a 2/3 vote? You guys have just done nominations and elections, so I'll skip that. Now, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chairman, you have some very specific responsibilities to your members. Obviously, you're running the meeting. You have to make sure that you restate the motion so that your members know exactly what they're voting on. You can help them sometimes with the wording. If they get stuck on a word on how to present the motion, you can assist them with that. You can rule if the motion is not in order because you have a motion on the floor right now, so you can't entertain a second motion. That is your responsibility to let the members know and the body know. You bring the motion for debate and discussion, you process the vote, and then you announce the vote. Now, let's say that the chair makes a ruling and says, well, you know, I believe it requires a 2/3 vote, not the majority vote. And somebody else believes that it's not correct. That's not the right advice because you just looked at Robert's rules and it says it requires a 2/3. Well, I appeal the chair, the ruling of the chair. You do need a second, and you can explain to the chair why. And this is, of course, very formal Robert's rules. You may be able to just do it by saying, hey, Mr. Chairman, I just looked at the Robert's rules and this is what I found, and I'm sure Mr. Chairman will correct it. And then at the end of your meeting, you have what they call good of the order, which is the opportunity for members to comment about their observations, to discuss anything that they feel is necessary for the good of the order, for the good of the committee and the members. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Mr.
I
Chairman.
apologize. I do have one question, and this is possibly more out of curiosity, but how many total members in this committee, and what constitutes quorum for this committee?
So that's a good question. So our rules right now, basically, I think what you have 7, am I correct, Jaren? 7 members?
No, ma'am, it's 14 total appointees.
14, okay, thank you for correcting me. 14 total appointees. Okay. So the rules that we have does not necessarily require a quorum pursuant to 1.20. However, majority, just 1 over is what I would recommend for you. So if you have 7, then 8 people will constitute a quorum for you. Is that what you have, Jared?
Yes, that's correct. Traditionally, we have not got information respective to quorum since the board policy says they do not have to maintain it. The only time we consider the number is when the board or advisory committee makes an official recommendation to the school board. We record the number of members who are present and voting that night, but not necessarily for the purposes of establishing or losing quorum.
Right. So, and that's pursuant to board policy 1.20 that does require, if you're going to bring some type of recommendation to the board wants to know how many people were there to make that recommendation. Holly, you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
Yes, go ahead.
Question. And I know for a fact there's other folks in our community who did want to serve. In policy 1.20 item F, it states that we have 15 members. The Equity and Diversity Advisory Committee shall consist of 15 members. Why do we only have 14? Just out of curiosity. Does anyone know?
Point of clarification, in speaking with our recording secretary, we do have 15 indeed. That was me misspeaking, looking at the number, just doing a quick count. So there are 15 appointed, and those are the names.
Good.
All right, so
Good.
you do have your
Thank
15.
you, Jarrett.
Thank you. Any other questions? Andres, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions?
I would like it to go to record that I am very appreciative of the way you explain the procedures and request that the members follow it the way you have done it. Ms. Bruno, thank you so much. You are a very good teacher.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Denui. Coming from you, that's an honor. I appreciate that.
You're most welcome.
I do. So if you have any other questions, feel free. From time to time, you may see me here and there. I will certainly see the chairs when they come and present to the superintendent. We may have some hot topics throughout the year, and if there's anything like that and you need me to come in, or you have something in particular, I know that Ms. Vaughn will present it to the board. So with that, everyone have a great evening. Welcome aboard. We're looking forward to working with you. And I think site selection is next. I'm gonna pop off. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So again, thank you to Ms. Bruno for the presentation on the parliamentary procedure. In your email, you should have received as well a handout related to parliamentary procedure, just a handy guide there. Again, we do try to operate within Robert's Rules of Order, but it's not always as formal. So, but you have questions or clarifications, you can always let myself or Vice Chair Quisenberry, and we'll assist through the process as well. So at this time, we'll continue through our agenda for site selection committee representative. And I'm going to ask our staff liaison, Mr. Edie, if you could provide some historical context on this site selection committee.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Joining us tonight, we have Ms. Kathy Ebaugh from our operations division, who is going to give an overview of the site selection process, which is pertinent to many of the informational points provided by Ms. Bruno. As she talked about, part of the board policy responsibilities of EDAC is to have conversation related to any new property or schools related to site selection. So Ms. Ebaugh is here tonight to give an overview and then give the committee an opportunity to select its representatives. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Edie and Ms. Ebaugh. At this time, I'll give you the floor. So.
Good evening, committee. Thank you for allowing us to have a little bit of time this evening. Every year we ask for every year that we are going to be purchasing property, which we will be doing this year, we ask for 3 committee members from this committee to participate on a site selection committee. It is made up of members of EDAC and also of DAC. And the purpose of the site selection committee is to review any potential properties that we might be purchasing for potential use by the district, either for a school site or for a district property of some other purpose, whether it be a transportation related site, a district necessary site. And we do have a number of properties that we will be looking to purchase in this coming year. So we have come to you to ask for 3 members from this committee to participate on that committee. It would be for the coming year. Our first meeting will be actually very shortly. We have 1 property that we are looking to close on in the next couple of weeks, or next couple of meetings, I should say. And then we will have another meeting towards the end of this calendar year, and then a couple of more next year. So we do have quite a bit of demand this year for site selection committee, as we do have a number of properties that we are in the process of purchasing.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Dianui.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Kathy and maybe Mr. Edie. Are there any particular criteria for people to be members of that committee?
No, the only criteria, again, are we have 3 committees from this committee, 3 members from this committee, and then we have 6 members, 2 representing each of the zones, the west, east, and south zones from DAC. So that is how we can comprise this committee. It isn't an appointed committee like yours is. It is a committee that is appointed from within those 2 organizations, and they are self-appointed from within those 2 organizations.
And there are no qualifications, specific qualifications?
No, not necessarily. We just look forward to getting your opinion. The way we run the site selection committee is that we have we do our due diligence. We have a professional due diligence for us on any site that we're considering, so that you have a full realm and information about the site. You have information about the environmentals of the site, and you have information regarding transportation, exactly what can fit on the site, how many, what kind of uses we can do on the site, if there are any concerns related to any environmental conditions or any constraints that might be put on the site for land use purposes. So we provide all of that information to you ahead of you making a decision. All we're looking for is your opinions and your insight as a public group looking at it from a different perspective. The professionals look at it from many other perspectives, and we go through that exhaustive evaluation before we even bring it to site selection, so that by the time it comes to the site selection committee, you can be assured that, at least from a more professional level, we have thoroughly evaluated and determined that it is appropriate to at least be considered by site selection and then recommended onto the board for purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand from Andres.
Well, I was going to ask, I would love to participate and collaborate and be a part of that site selection committee.
So we are looking for 3 volunteers, and we will schedule the meetings. We'll schedule the meetings once we have our full committee slate from, again, both this committee and then also from DAC.
Before getting interest, are there any additional questions from Kathy Ebal before we ask for volunteers? I just want to make sure we get questions addressed.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if there's any particular insights that they're hoping for from our specific committee?
The reason that this committee is part of the representation is because we want to consider the community aspects related to this property, or a property that we would be purchasing. We'll have some demographic information for you. As I said, as part of our site selection committee assessment that we've already done for this property and the due diligence, we look into those issues. We also look into kind of if it is to be a school site, or even if it's to be a district site, what area is to be served by this site. So say we were looking for a site for a new transportation facility, we would want your opinion on whether or not that site actually would be something that would be necessary for and meet that right purpose in that right area. We don't, contrary to what people think the site selection committee does, is we're not necessarily evaluating for a specific use. So we may not know that the property that we're bringing forward at the time is meant to serve a middle school that we are planning to purchase or develop at any particular time frame. Sometimes we do know that, sometimes we don't. You know, oftentimes it's good for us to be able to purchase and buy a piece of property well before we have any sense of what that site would be used for. So it's more about kind of just generally, is that an area that we think is going to need a future district school or district facility. Oftentimes, if we're purchasing a site for a specific use, we'll let you know. But again, we don't always know that it's a site, it's something that we're going to have for an immediate use. Because sometimes we want to buy property as early as we can. If we know an area is going to be going through development spurt, or it's an area that is going to have a lot of growth, and we'll try and look for property early before we even have a need for a site so that we can get the land. Because as I tell people, once a piece of land is something other than a school, it's not about to become a school. So we're purchasing property ahead.
So I see hands from Hytham and then Holly. Questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I'd like also to volunteer for this committee. And I just also have a question. I've been part of such a committee before, and I think you know, it is important for who volunteers know some of the aspects that will be given to them, like traffic data or demographic data, or some of these information, so that they can have a educated opinion when he's asked for it or when she's asked for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why we put this committee at the end of the process and not at the beginning of the process, because it isn't until the end that we have completed our due diligence and our staff evaluation of any potential property.
And Holly, you have a hand raised as well.
I was just going to voice my interest as well.
Okay. So any other additional questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think I'd like to nominate somebody else, not me. This is not my committee, but Mr. Ladovik Kimbo would be a very good member of this committee.
Okay.
We only need 3 members from this committee. I'm excited to hear so much interest in this committee. And as I said, sometimes it's only going to meet once through a calendar year, but I know that this one will probably meet 3 or 4 times.
Okay, so before we go forward with additional nominations, I want to make sure there's no further questions. Okay. Just making sure. So we have currently 3 people expressed interest in 1 nomination. So before we move forward with that, Mr. Lavlik, Dr. Dianui made a nomination. I want to see if you were interested before we.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Yes, I'm interested. I've actually sat on that committee when I was a professor at Edison once before, helping pick property that chose the schools. And I think it's very necessary that somebody be from this committee to make sure there's equity and fairness when these properties are chosen. I understand we've had conflict before where schools have been built, and I think that I would play a good role in that role. So I would like to be considered.
Okay.
I have prior experience.
Thank you. Ms. Ebal, a point of clarification, you mentioned that this committee would meet for the full calendar year, or was that a full academic year?
It could be it would be the academic year, although this one may extend into the summertime, depends on when we have due diligence complete. We actually had a challenge. The property that we are getting ready to bring first was ready actually last month to bring forward, but because this committee and DAC had yet to meet, we weren't able to hold the meeting already. So we had to ask for an additional period of time from the seller to purchase this property. So this may extend into the summer period, depending on when the due diligence is ready on a piece of property.
Okay. And a follow-up question as well. You indicated perhaps 3 to 4 meetings throughout the academic year. Are there particular regular dates of that? Just want to get clarification so people can identify their availability before accepting a nomination or committee. I didn't know if there was a day of the week or.
No, we don't have, this is more of an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
So we meet when we're ready, and then once we have the members, we'll query them as to a certain time frame when we're ready to bring forward a proposed site, and determine through, through their availability or the best availability for the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
And I don't know exactly. I know that there's at least 3 pieces of property that will be looked at this year. There could be more.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I want to ask Ms. Cathy whether it is, since there's an ad hoc committee, is there room for having 4 members of EDAC?
I'm going to ask, I've actually not been here when we've had a site selection committee before. I do know that it is in the rules as to how this committee is made up of. Again, it's made up of 2 members from each of the zones on DAC, and then 3 from this committee. So I would say that I don't think so, but I will ask Jared if he has an opinion on that.
It's because the reason why I thought I've been in this committee for a long time, and there have been a few times when you have had ad hoc committees and we got more nominations, more interest. And the ad hoc committee said, we're not a standing committee, we can accept another member. And the 4 nominees are very good people. I would recommend that we set them all together.
I appreciate that, and I would love to have more. I know that it is set in policy as to what this membership is made up of. So even though it isn't a regular committee, it is still a standing committee of the board. So I don't believe that I have discretion over that issue.
And a follow-up question, thank you, Dr. Dianui, for that. A follow-up question, Kathy, if there were to be 3 selected and recommended for this evening, would it be possible to add a alternate depending on the availability once you all query other members? I just want to clarify before making a formal request from the body.
I think that a 4th member for pending on availability for a specific meeting would probably be very appropriate.
Okay. And I also just want to make sure if we have our staff liaison, Mr. Edie, if you had any point of clarification on the numbers as stated.
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, that specific committee for site selection is not a part of the policy governance for the establishment of this committee, but we will find out. And just for our clarification, Mr. Chairman, did I hear you say that you were trying to keep all the 4 nominations constant for now until clarification? Can you help us out with that for minutes purposes?
Yeah, so I'll bring that to the body. Are we, I guess, we have names. Mr. Dianui, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can I help you? Can I make the motion, please? Because it's always important to maintain motions. I make the motion.
Sir, can I interject for just a second? I do at least need, we can't wait for the next meeting for at least the appointment of 3 of them. If you're going to ask for clarification, and you at least need 3 of them, 3 people appointed tonight for at least the very first meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
As I said, we've already extended our due diligence period, and I'm quite confident we would not be able to extend it any further.
Okay.
May I then make my motion?
Before you make your motion, are there any other names that are of interest before you make your motion? I want to make sure that give time for anyone else who had interest. Right now, we had 4. We have Andreas, Hytham, Holly, and Mr. Kimball. Are the others? Hearing none and seeing none, Mr. Beasley, we have a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I make a motion that EDAC sends 4 members to the site selection committee, and if all of them cannot be absorbed, one of them, and they can decide on by their own, one of them can be an alternate member. Let me repeat my motion. I move the motion that EDAC sends 4 members to the site selection committee. If they are absorbed, that's fine. If they're not absorbed, one of them becomes an alternate member.
So there's currently a motion on the floor to send the 4 members that will be Andreas, Hytham, Holly, and Lovick. And if they cannot be absorbed, then one of those individuals may serve as alternate. Is there a second?
Yes, I'd like to second that. This is Hytham.
Seconded by Hytham. Any discussion or objection?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question from the staff vantage point?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering if you have 4 names and in the motion there's not descript or specific, then how is the staff to disaggregate the names to decide who the alternate or alternate and who are the 3 actual members who are part of the committee?
Thank you, Jarrett.
With that clarification, then I can modify my vote, my motion, that we vote for the 3, but the other one becomes an alternate.
So Dr. Dianu has made an amendment to his original motion that there's a vote for 3 representatives for nomination or recommendation to the site selection committee, with the 4th being an alternate. Is that correct in your amendment?
Yes, that's quite correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is there a second to that motion with the amendment?
Second.
Point
Seconded
of clarification,
yes.
who is the alternate? I'm still not clear who would
No,
be.
we do the vote.
Do a vote. So we're going to do a roll call vote for the 3, and then the 4th will become the alternate by the numbers. So we'll do a roll call vote.
Thank you.
So it's been seconded by Mr. Kimball. Again, any discussion or objections? All right, hearing no objections, we will move forward with a roll call vote of your 3 members that you would like to recommend for the site selection committee.
Would I vote for 1 or for 3?
You will vote for your 3, and then we'll tally the votes of all. Is that a piece? Okay.
Can we vote for the alternate instead? So it's just 1 name versus 3 names?
Well, I'd rather vote for the 3.
What are the 3 names? So we have to remember that.
Yes, I'm going to give those.
I don't know people's names, so you write them down.
So this is our
Dr.
discussion.
Blakely, Ms. Marth has her hand
Yes.
up raised.
Miss Marth.
Thank you, Crystal. Just like before, when it came to chair and vice chair, we don't know the background of some of us. So how do we even know? I happen to know Dr. Kimball. He probably doesn't remember me from a long time ago. But folks on here don't know my construction and engineering and realtor experience any more than they know what Amy or Peter or Christopher do. So we're kind of voting blindly again.
I think from this perspective, from the site selection, and Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the representation of the 3 members from this committee is to represent on behalf of the committee. So those who have been appointed to this committee have a representation of equity and diversity. That's why you've been appointed to the EDAC committee and would serve in that capacity, not necessarily the role or responsibilities you have in your professional careers, although it may be a benefit.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. You're representing the EDAC committee and interests thereof, although having some, if you have professional experience with it, that's a benefit, but not necessarily a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
So I think there was amendment. Amy, would you like to clarify amendments for voting for just the alternate? Was that, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, well, it was just a suggestion that maybe it might be easier for us to just vote for the alternate versus voting for all three to be on the actual committee. Simplify.
I agree.
Good point.
Smart woman.
So the motion is carried to take a vote for 3 members and alternate. So Amy, would you like to make a motion to vote solely for the alternate?
I would, yes.
Okay.
I'll
so,
second that.
Thank you.
So there's a motion and seconded by Holly to make a vote, a roll call vote for just the alternate, identifying the 3 remainder as the members that would be recommended for it. Any discussion or objections?
Mr. Chairman, could you clarify the names one more time, please?
Yes, so we have Andreas, we have Hytham, Holly, and Lovdick.
Ludovic.
My apologies.
That's all right.
Ludovic.
I've been called worse.
Right, that's what. So, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of the chair, please?
Yes.
For our record-keeping purposes, I do not recall a final action or vote taking place on Dr. Dianui's motion. So I'm wondering if the committee would dispose of that motion or maybe clarify if you recall if a vote was taken on that motion.
The vote was there's no objection to voting for 3 to be moved forward with the 4th being the alternate. So that the clarification on that motion was that there will be 3 move forward and the 4th will be the alternate. The follow-up motions, secondary motion with Amy identifying that we only vote for the alternate.
But I would like to make it easier for you, Mr. Chairman. Let me withdraw my motion on voting for 3 and we only vote for the alternate, joining Amy and the other people, please.
Okay. Dr. Dianui is withdrawing his original motion. The motion now is that we vote for the alternates for this. So we will move forward with a roll call vote of the alternates based on the names Andreas, Hytham, Holly, and Ludwig. Apologies.
Okay, so on the motion of voting for the alternate only, Ms. Chris Fonse. Okay. Mr. Bell.
Yeah, again, just to piggyback with Mr. Bendick and Holly, this is tough because we don't know any of you ladies or gentlemen. So I hate to single out one of my fellow committee members. So I'm just going to have to abstain on this one.
Duly noted. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Paz.
Just simply based on, let's see, I would hope that we send a diverse group. With that being said, men, women, white, Black, Hispanic. So I vote for Mr. Heitman to be the alternate. Hytham.
Thank you, Mr. Paz. Dr. Blakely.
I will vote for Mr. Paz.
Dr. Haytham.
Mr. Paz.
Thank you. Ms. Graham.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Duly noted. Mr. Quisenberry.
Mr. Kimball.
Thank you. Ms. Marth.
I'm sorry, y'all. Can I abstain even though I'm an older member? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know who would be best to represent us. I don't know us. I know me. So I don't vote for me.
It's duly noted, Ms. Marth. Thank you. Ms. House.
I abstain.
Duly noted. Thank you, Ms. House.
Crystal, I apologize. I think I was muted when you were calling me.
Yes.
I abstained, please.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Purdue.
I abstain.
Thank you. Duly noted. Mr. Kimball.
Well, I was going to make this an easy process. Just make me the alternate and I'll be happy to take that position.
Ask him what his vote is.
What is your vote, Mr. Kimball?
I would accept the position as the ultimate as well as otherwise. So
Okay.
if someone thinks that I would take that, be good in that role, I would be glad and allow other people to take the leadership role.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Dr. Danui.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Kimball. So even if I voted for somebody else, you'd rather be alternate? I want to be that clear.
Well, I think that I have the qualifications to do the job. I've been there before.
So what's your vote?
Then we have 4 people here, and this seems like a difficult process. I am new to the process, so I have no problem if the group thought that I should take the role as an alternate.
Now it's my turn to vote, and I was voting for Mr. Paz to be the alternate.
Thank you, Dr. Danui. Mr. Bendeck.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Duly noted. And Ms. Burrell.
I'm going to abstain as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Duly noted. The vote is for Mr. Paz, 3 votes for him.
Ms. Kathy, point of clarification. We will look to submit all 4 names. How will you communicate as far as curing their availability to identify the alternate to be present?
So I'm gonna ask tomorrow whether or not all 4 members can be on the committee. And then if they aren't, I will just communicate through Mr. Jared Eady.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
We thank you for your we thank you everyone for your participation and look forward to working with you this year.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Ebal, for your presence here today. And if there's any further things that you need from us, please.
Mr. Chairman, was my motion recorded that I wanted 4 of them? Was that recorded?
That was recorded, and Ms. Ebal said she will take that tomorrow to provide clarification, and then we will receive follow-up from Mr. Eady. I believe that's what stated.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you again, Kathy. Our next item of business is approval of committee meeting dates. On your screen, you should see the proposed dates of October 11th, November 8th, January 11th, February 14th, March 14th, and April 11th. Our time is starting at the 5:30 p.m. start time. Is there a motion to approve the committee meeting dates?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Mr. Kimball. Is there a second?
Second. For Mr. Quisenberry.
It's going to be in person.
Second by Mr. Quisenberry. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Stephanie Howe.
Yes.
February 14th?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Some people might not be available that day. Especially not if it's going to run 2 or 3 hours.
Understood. You can, during this time, it's just a motion. So you can seek to make an amendment to the floor, to the body, to amend that date if you would like.
I have a question. Every single day is a Monday, but January the 11th. Am I missing something? Is there a holiday on January 10th that I don't know of?
Okay. Mr. Paz, point of clarification on that Monday, the district is closed.
Okay.
Again, the motion was to approve the committee meeting dates. We're at discussion right now. Are there any objections to approval of the committee meeting dates?
Dr. Blakely?
Yes, I see your hand.
I agree with Miss Stephanie. I always wonder why. I mean, I'm an old married lady, so the 14th isn't, I hope that my husband celebrates me every day, not just February 14th, but I can't help but wonder if attendance will be lower, especially if we look at a 7:30 meeting like we're doing right now.
Mr. Chairman?
I don't have a problem with it, but I just wonder how attendance would be.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Edie.
If the committee is amenable, you can pass the motion as presented with the balance of the dates minus February 14th, and then we will find an alternate date for the month of February. What we've traditionally done is taken the whole constant date and time that the committee is usually met, and then attempted to reserve space within the district building to ensure that we had adequate space. So the dates that you see on the screen are the dates that are reserved, and we have space for in-person meetings if that is the decision of the committee. However, if you pass the balance of the dates, then we'll go and see what dates are available in February for space that is conducive if the committee chooses to meet in person, and then we can have that approved at your meeting in October.
Mr. Blakely,
Yes, Ms. Mara.
may I make a motion or did I lose track here?
We're currently in the discussion, so we haven't taken a vote from the original motion. So you could have an objection to the motion, and then we'll go from there to the original motion.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I'm objecting to the motion then at this point.
Okay, and there was a recommendation from our staff liaison, Mr. Edie, to pass on the balance of the dates as proposed to allow time for clarification of reservation of rooms if we were to meet in person.
Yep. I would second that if that's an option.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Marth mentioned that she would second that, but was there a motion to make that the recommendation?
Jared, I didn't know if I don't think you can make a motion being staff, can you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would but we already have a motion on the table, so I can't make another one.
Correct. So that's why I was asking for any other discussion. There's an objection.
Mr. Chairman, could you clarify the motion on the table, please?
The motion on the table is to approve the committee meeting dates as proposed on your screen. Ms. Marth made an objection that we will look to pass the balance of the dates with a review of the February 14th date.
Okay.
So we can either amend the original motion or withdraw the motion to pass with the balance of the dates with further clarification availability.
Who made the first motion, please?
That was me.
Ms. Marth, the original motion was made by Mr. Kimball.
Thank you.
Trying to see on screen.
Mr. Chairman, not that I want to create a motion when there's another motion, but since January we are meeting on Tuesday, why don't we meet on Tuesday in February too? It takes us to 15th. We always meet on the second Monday of the month, except January when you're meeting on Tuesday. We can meet on Tuesday in February.
Mr. Edie, I see yours.
I don't know whether that modifies the motion or is another motion altogether, but procedurally I was thinking that that would be a better way of doing it.
Mr. Chairman, we're supportive in whatever the final decision is. However, the caveat is we can only meet based on the space that's allocated. So if there's no space available on the 15th of February, then that would not give us an opportunity to meet in person if that's what the committee decides. So space around here at the district office fills up pretty quickly, especially space that's conducive to support all of the members of the committee as well as any individuals of the public. So I could not say we could use the 15th at this point because I don't know if there's space available in the district office to accommodate.
And if the issue was just debate, just space, I would propose that in that particular month, in respect to the people who want their Valentines, that we can meet virtually. We have been doing that. There's no harm doing it like we are doing. If the space is not available, Mr. Edie.
So I think what I'm hearing procedurally is that we either need to withdraw the current motion that's on the table, or we need to make an amendment to that motion. Is that correct? And
It's
Mr.
an
Kimball,
amendment. It's an amendment. I was making Mr. Kimball's motion.
but would Mr. Kimball need to make the amendment to his own motion, or yeah?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to make amendment that we accept the dates as stated and allow Chairman Edie to look at February 14th for another date that it could be open for us to have the meeting. That's what Edie suggested, is that he can look at that process and get back with us and let us know what date is appropriate.
So
I second that motion.
So amendment to the motion by Mr. Kimball, a second by Mr. Benedict, excuse me, that there will be a passing of the approval of the committee meeting dates as proposed, recognizing that we will look for alternate location for February 15th. Any further discussion? Any objections? All right, hearing and seeing none, we will approve the committee meeting dates by unanimous consent and look to for an alternate location for February 15th to discuss later at October 11th meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The committee also needs to dispose of the conversation related to the meeting delivery method if you're meeting back in person starting in October.
All right, so we have the discussion on the modality of our meeting. Currently, we're meeting virtually. We do have proposed reserved spaces at the school district, so we will need to discuss and decide our modality of meeting. And we could have the opportunity, just give them historical context. Last year, we began our meetings virtually during the pandemic, then transitioned to in person by the second half of the school year.
So are we open for discussion now?
Yes.
Okay. I would, I mean, just from my own perspective, I think that October 11th is a little bit early for us to go back to in-person meetings when we don't yet have a full picture of where the pandemic will be here in just another 3-4 weeks. So I mean, that's my feedback. I think October 11th is early for us to meet in person.
Gloria, is that a motion? If it is, I'll second it.
Sure, I would like to make a motion that we bring this back up for discussion during our October 11th meeting, and that we maintain virtual as our modality of meeting for the October 11th meeting.
I would second that. Thank you, ma'am.
So there's a motion, Gloria, and second by Holly, that our modality for our meeting for the October 11th date would be virtual with a discussion for the remaining dates. Is that correct? So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or objections? All right, I'm scrolling through, so I apologize. Seeing none, hearing
I
none.
beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman. This is Stephanie House again.
Yes.
I know Mr. Edie said that he had already checked these dates for availability for in-house meetings, but at that, and this is supposed to be in-house at the school board, but again, I know based on past experience, October 11th is a federal holiday. So was the school supposed to be open and available that day?
Ms. House, based off our calendar, October 11th, we are open.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Ms. House, for your. Any other discussion? Any objections? All right, so seeing no further objections, then our selected modality for our meeting for October 11th will be virtual, and a discussion to identify the remaining modality for our committee meetings. That will move forward. So next we have our board update that we will have on our agenda. So at this time, we will have Ms. Betsy Vaughn to provide a board update. So Ms. Vaughn.
Well, I'd just like to really quickly say hello to all of you who I got to know last year, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the new members. Due to the late hour, I'm going to run through this very quickly. I wanted to talk just briefly about the superintendent search, any updates. First of all, anything that I talk about will be found on the district website. So we actually, there's some new dates for the forums that we're going to be presented. They're going to be, there are 26 different groups, some pretty generic groups, some groups that have invitations, and those groups will be meeting with representatives from our search firm, Ray and Associates, for at least 45 minutes. So there will be that option for actually any community member to meet with the groups. We have not yet worked out, we're still working out the exact locations, but we have 4 representatives from Ray and Associates. And so the in-person forums will be in different locations. In addition, we will have Zoom meetings. Okay, so you're going to have a lot of different options. You're not going to see that yet on the district website, but it will be coming soon. I just checked the district website about 30 minutes ago, and they haven't updated yet. But in case you're looking ahead, the 27th and the 28th of September are the dates that we're going to, it gives a week earlier, but we needed a little more time. So the 27th and the 28th, there may be a few additional meetings on the 29th if all of the scheduled meetings, we can't fit it all into the schedule. The other thing that's really important is we have a survey available. And I believe some of the surveys are being sent out, but the link right now is live. You just go to the district website, leeschools.net, and if you wait for probably 30 seconds, you're going to see the notice school board, the superintendent search, and you just click on that and you're going to get additional information, and you're also going to be able to fill out the survey. The survey will be live through October 7th at 8 a.m. So what happens then? Okay, so we will have gathered information from hopefully a cross-section, a large cross-section of all of our stakeholders from various corners of Lee County. And that's going to be including parents and just anybody that has an interest in our school system. And everybody should have an interest because the school system is the economic driver for the county. Then Ray and Associates will be assembling the different comments. They'll be grouping them together. And the next step after that, and we don't have an exact date, but probably, I would say at the latest mid-October, we will actually post the ad for superintendent. And again, we're not posting that until we have gotten
all the community, stakeholders, businesses, parents, everybody, until we've gotten, and students too. And once we have all the comments and they're put together, we will put our ad together so that the candidates out there will know exactly what we're looking for. Any questions on what I've said? Anybody? We good? Okay, so.
Ms. Vaughn.
Yes.
I don't know whether this is relevant at all, but it's based on still on the superintendent and such. I want to ask my question when you finish this issue superintendent and such, not at the middle of it. If you before you leave, I want to ask the question there. Maybe you might answer my
I'm sorry, the question on what?
Well, if you are moving away from that item on superintendent and such, then I can ask my question.
Oh, okay. Unless there's a question on that, I guess.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't remember what we concluded last time, what was concluded, but we have the interim superintendent. Is he still eligible to move forward when that is settled, or you are going to wait for the input from the groups?
There could always be input, but as of right now, he is not eligible because that's in his contract, and it's what we put forth as a school board. So we are doing a nationwide search on this. That said, you know, nothing is etched in stone here, but yeah, it is in his contract that he's not eligible. The board as a whole voted that we wanted to do a search nationwide, and that we all voted that we wanted to exclude whoever the interim is from the candidate pool.
So let me get this right. So if the community said can still start, it's okay, or no, it's against what the board ruling was last year?
I cannot give you a definitive answer on that because remember, we are looking at everything that the community says, but in the end, it is a board decision. That said, you know,
I think we have to default to
that's always a possibility, but I'm telling you right now, that is not what the board voted on. That's not what is in Dr. Savage's contract. So I can't give you a give you a definitive.
Well, yeah, I got the answer, Dr. Vaughn. I don't want to take too much time on this. I know that the chairman wants us to proceed, and I respect that. Okay.
I will say that may be a question restricted to a general counsel because it is a contractual thing that he signed his contract. So that may be a question for general counsel.
No, I was just seeking clarification. I was not even making a motion or either way or the way.
Right. No, I totally understand that. And I'm just telling you what the board voted, and I'm a board liaison, and I'm just one of the whole. And right now, no, the interim is not eligible for that. Okay, anybody else have a question about superintendent search? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Appreciate your update. Next, we have our staff liaison update from Mr. Garrett Eady.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very succinct and to the point. As similar to last year, we will ask our recording secretary or corresponding secretary to email out to the committee any updates provided by Mrs. Vaughn relative to the superintendent search. So she referenced the email link for the survey. We will send out the link to the survey from our recording secretary. Additionally, as a matter of introduction, I'm Jared Eady. I serve as your staff liaison. We work with diversity and inclusion as well as AVID System of College Readiness here. And I'll give Ms. Torres Nunez an opportunity to provide her introduction. She served as our temporary recording secretary for tonight.
Greetings. Everyone, my name is Crystal Torres Nunez. I'm the diversity and inclusion coach for our school district. I work directly with Mr. Jerry Edie. It's always an honor to be here and present with you doing these meetings, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ms. Torres Nunez. And I believe with us also, we have Mr. Chuck Bradley and Ms. Jessica Duncan. If they're still with us, I'll give them an opportunity to provide their introductions.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Duncan, Executive Director for Student Services. The updates tonight I will also keep brief. We have some additions to our licensed mental health team, so we're very excited about that. We're also increasing our social workers, so we're able to provide some additional mental health supports across our school settings. We would be happy at another time if you have an opportunity for us to come and talk as a team to share some of the work we're doing to support social emotional learning and mental health. We would love to come and share some additional information with you all.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Is Mr. Bradley still with us?
Mr. Edie, Mr. Bradley placed in the chat that he had to leave tonight, but he did provide an introduction as Director of Positive Prevention and serves as District's Equity Coordinator.
Thank you, sir. And the last point, that's a segue from Ms. Duncan. Board policy provides that the EDAC committee chair, as well as the board liaison, establish an agenda and topics for review for the committee throughout the year. It has been customary after this meeting, I'll facilitate a meeting between our board liaison and our chair to come back to you all in your next meeting to give you suggestions based on standing meeting topics that we usually have. For example, site selection, mental health supports, as well as an opportunity for leveraging the committee's input relative to any months where there is no current topic of discussion. So just wanted to provide that update. Mr. Chairman, we will send out a communication to you and Ms. Vaughn to schedule an opportunity for you and our board liaison to establish your agenda for your committee's feedback. And that's all I have. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chairman, and to our new members, welcome. Glad to have you. To our returning members, it's good to see you again. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edie. I ditto Mr. Edie's sentiments. Thank you for our returning members as well as our new members. I know this is a little more lengthier than some may anticipate it, but I promise we worked through a lot of our kinks early on, so we'll be more productive as we move forward. But at this time, are there any comments or anything good up to the order? Good of the
Yes,
order.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Dianui.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Vaughn is still, Mr. Vaughn, is you here? Ms. Vaughn? I just wanted to clarify. I know we want to avoid this issue, but the issue of mask mandating is still an issue and very thorny, and we have seen the meetings. As interested members of EDAC, we are following the progress. I would like the report in our next meeting, how things are going in that way. I know there are issues here and there, the governor and all that. We can't avoid it. It's important. We must address it. We must see it. We must have our input once in a while. I would like an input in our next meeting.
Absolutely. This meeting is your meeting, the 15 members, and I'm happy to address anything or answer any questions that you need addressed or answered.
At this point, the only thing I would have liked to say, and this is for me, I'm not even moving a motion, is that I'm very proud of Mr. Savage. I know it can go one way or the other, you can beat anyway, but the move was very good and rightfully so. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a hand from Mr. Hytham.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to remind the committee with the beginning of the Hispanic Heritage Month, which is going to begin on Wednesday. And, we appreciate our Hispanic community. They've been very supportive, and they are an integral part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hytham. Yes, and Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated from September 15th through October 15th nationally, but thank you for that announcement as well. Yes, Mr. Andres.
Just very quickly, I wanted to thank every member of this committee for allowing me an opportunity to chime in, participate, and continue to promote diversity and inclusion. I want to share with the group that I was recently recognized, surprised and recognized with the 2021 Southwest Florida Outstanding Citizen of the Year by Southwest Florida Inc. and the Naples Daily News. And one of the pieces to that equation was being a part of this group. So I want to thank everyone, and I look forward to working with you this year.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other items good of the order?
And I do hope my item about the mask is recorded.
It is recorded, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Kimball, I'd like to say that I'm very proud to be part of this board. I've watched you work for years. I want to thank Betsy and a couple other people for being the people encouraging me to be part of this. I retired last year. I've been bored to death, but I have gone back to work. I work with the new Premier Nursing College. I'm the director of student affairs there. So I've got myself back involved again, and it feels good to be active, helping making a change in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball, for being here, and to all you all. Any other items good of the order? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Any objections? I see none or hear none, so